Most people believe you need to follow stock tips, time the market, or predict the next big trend. Warren Buffett, he calls that nonsense. In this lecture, he breaks down the biggest lie in investing and reveals the simple truth that made him one of the richest men in the world. This is the part of investing they don't teach you. In this video, I'll break down Warren Buffett's most powerful investing principles, ones that have made him billions. I will show you why he ignores stock charts, how he picks businesses that grow for decades, and the simple mindset shift that separates successful investors from everyone else. Let's get right into it. Warren Buffett doesn't invest in stocks. He invests in businesses. While most investors react to price swings and market noise, Buffett sticks to patience, simplicity, and discipline. He doesn't chase trends or gamble on hype. Instead, he focuses on buying strong businesses and holding them for years, even decades. Most investors panic when prices drop or rush to sell after small gains. Buffett does the opposite. He buys companies with real value, ignores short-term fluctuations, and lets his investments grow. His strategy isn't complex. It's just sticking to what works and blocking out distractions. And here's the key. Anyone can do this. The real question is, how does he decide which businesses are worth buying? That's where his long-term value-based investing strategy comes in.
It's a company that owns a wide variety of businesses, from a candy operation to insurance operations to a newspaper. But then we have pieces of things like Gillette, Coca-Cola, the Washington Post, and what we try to do is we try to be in businesses that have very good economics, that are run by people that are honest and talented.
You have said many times that you don't get into a business in order to get out of it again. I mean, you come to stay.
Yeah, till death do us part.
Right. Why?
Well, it just fits my personality, for one thing.
But I mean, businesses have ups and downs.
Well, I'll accept that, but I'm looking for businesses that have a whole lot more ups than downs, and that the ups are higher than the downs are low. But I enjoy. I don't want to be in business like playing a gin rummy game, where every time I pick up a card, I got to give up one in my hand.
For example, we're sitting here in a Dairy Queen.
Right.
For a reason.
Yeah.
A, you claim to like Dairy Queen lunches.
Yeah,
right?
I do, for a long time.
And B, you own this place.
We own the company that franchises this place, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Why'd you buy it?
Well, we bought it.
What was it that went through your head?
Well, it was a business I could understand. Now, there's all kinds of businesses I can't understand, and I try not to buy into those, because why should I expect to make money in something I can't understand? So I'm not in any high-tech businesses, for example. But I understand that, an Ultimate Hamburger, or a Peanut Buster, or a deli bar, and I can handle that. And I like the people that run it. I like the economics of the business. It's a good business. You've got thousands of people that are paying you a royalty for your name of Dairy Queen, and the business grows a little every year. It generates cash. The cash gets sent to Omaha, and then we go out and buy other businesses with that.
But I mean, just to give me a sense of what goes through your head, it could have been Burger King rather than Dairy Queen. It could have been McDonald's.
Yeah, and both of those are very good businesses that you've just named. They're not for sale, and we owned a piece of McDonald's for a while. It's a good business. But Dairy Queen was available. The price made sense in terms of what we were getting, and I liked the fellow running it, so we wrote a check.
A durable competitive advantage, DCA, is a critical concept in Warren Buffett's investment strategy, often referred to as an economic moat. This moat protects companies from the competitive forces that could otherwise erode their profitability and market position. In simple terms, a DCA allows a company to maintain a strong, dominant market position for years, even in the face of external competition or market fluctuations. A company with a DCA enjoys the ability to generate superior returns over time, offering investors a more stable, long-term investment. Buffett believes that identifying companies with a durable competitive advantage is the key to successful investing. These companies stand out due to factors that create a barrier to entry for competitors, protecting their market share and profitability. The companies Buffett favors are those that are not only strong today, but will continue to be strong decades from now. He often looks for businesses that are positioned to thrive and adapt to changing conditions without being overtaken by the competition. One of the essential features of companies with a DCA is their high return on equity, ROE, which shows their efficiency in generating profits from shareholders' equity. A high ROE means the company is using its capital effectively to generate consistent and sustainable returns. Another key factor is the level of debt. Successful businesses with a DCA tend to have low levels of debt, giving them financial flexibility and resilience during tough economic times. When a company operates with low debt, it reduces the risk of financial instability, making it a more reliable long-term investment. For instance, Coca-Cola remains a dominant player in the beverage industry thanks to its iconic brand and loyal customer base. Despite numerous competitors entering the market, Coca-Cola's established position and customer trust have allowed it to maintain its industry leadership. Another prime example of a company with a DCA is Apple. Apple's competitive advantage comes from its innovative technology and the strong ecosystem it has built around its products. The company's ability to charge premium prices for its devices, coupled with a dedicated customer base, has created a unique moat. Apple customers often remain loyal due to the seamless integration of its hardware and software, making it difficult for competitors to replicate its success. Apple's brand has become synonymous with high-quality, innovative products, which is why its competitive edge remains so powerful. To identify companies with a DCA, investors should look for businesses that consistently outperform their peers in terms of profitability, efficiency, and growth. These companies often have strong fundamentals, including a robust balance sheet and a solid track record of success. Additionally, successful companies typically have established brands that customers trust, allowing them to command a premium price. Companies that face little competition or operate in industries where barriers to entry are high are prime candidates for having a durable competitive advantage. In short, these businesses have the strength and resilience to withstand competition, technological disruptions, or market downturns. Moreover, NVIDIA, a company in the tech sector, is another shining example of a company with a robust DCA. NVIDIA has positioned itself as a leader in the graphics processing unit, GPU market, which is critical for artificial intelligence and gaming. Its ability to innovate and stay ahead in the AI space has created a significant competitive moat, enabling it to secure key partnerships and gain market share. NVIDIA's dominance in the GPU market highlights the power of technological leadership as a source of competitive advantage in today's rapidly changing market.
We've had a lot of speculative activity and all kinds of things over the years in markets, and it frequently doesn't come to a good end, but it'll be with us 100 years from now, just as it was with us 100 years ago.
Well, it's just a lot faster now.
There's a lot of action, and people are day trading and that sort of thing. The one piece of advice I'd give them is don't do it on borrowed money.
But many of them are.
I know.
I mean, they're buying on margin.
Yeah. Some of them will come to a bad end on that.
Because?
I hope. Well, because things don't go up forever, and a lot of the valuations strike me as extreme. And if you own them on borrowed money and they go down one day, you don't get to play out your hand.
Talk for a moment about your own philosophy compared to what you see going on right now. Because again, your philosophy is, as you once described it to me, you called yourself an elephant hunter. You say, I sit there in the tall grass and I wait there with my elephant gun till I see an elephant come along.
Yeah.
And then I shoot it. But what you really mean is that you'll sit there and you'll study a company over a period of months or even years until you're finally convinced that that's the right company for you. That is about as far from the way that a lot of trading goes on today as anything can be.
Yeah, the key, if there's one key to what I do, it's I look at every share of stock as being a part of a business. So if I'm going to buy 100 shares of General Motors or General Electric or whatever it may be, I try and look at what the whole business is selling for, and then do I want to buy this tiny little piece of that business at that price? That means I think about the business. I don't think about the price action of the stock, or I don't think about what people are saying they're going to earn next quarter or anything of the sort, or look at charts. I just try and look at the business. Now, what does that mean? It means I have to understand the business. A lot of businesses I can't understand. I can understand Gillette. I can understand Coca-Cola. I can understand Wrigley's Chewing Gum. I mean, those are things that I can understand, and I kind of, when I say I can understand them, it means I have a pretty good idea of what they're going to look like 10 or 15 years from now. That's understanding a business.
Value investing is one of Warren Buffett's core investment strategies, and it revolves around the principle of buying stocks that are undervalued compared to their intrinsic worth. The goal is to find companies that are trading for less than they are worth, and then hold these stocks until the market catches up with the true value of the business. The strategy is simple in theory, but requires patience, discipline, and a long-term perspective. At its core, value investing is about identifying undervalued stocks, those that are trading at prices below their intrinsic value, often due to temporary market conditions or mispricing by investors. Buffett is a staunch believer in the idea that the market can often misprice stocks in the short run, creating opportunities for investors to buy at a discount. By buying low and selling high, investors can unlock significant returns once the stock's price reflects its true value. Buffett's definition of intrinsic value goes beyond basic metrics like earnings or revenue. He relies on key financial indicators to identify undervalued stocks, particularly the price-to-earnings PE ratio, price-to-book PB ratio, and free cash flow FCF. The PE ratio helps Buffett determine whether a stock is undervalued compared to its historical average or industry peers. For example, if a company's PE ratio is 10, while competitors trade at 15 or higher, it may indicate a buying opportunity. The PB ratio compares a company's market price to its book value. A stock trading at 1.2 times book value, while competitors trade at 2.5 times, could signal that the market is underestimating its worth. Lastly, free cash flow, FCF, is crucial in Buffett's evaluation, as companies with consistent and growing FCF have the financial flexibility to reinvest in growth or return value to shareholders. An excellent example of a company that Buffett invested in based on its value proposition is Geico, an insurance company that he bought for Berkshire Hathaway in 1996. At the time, Geico was undervalued by the market, largely because it was viewed as a lower-tier competitor to larger insurance firms. However, Buffett recognized that Geico had a sustainable, competitive advantage with its low-cost structure and strong growth potential. Over time, the company's value became apparent and the stock price soared, proving Buffett's belief in the power of value investing. Another notable example is American Express, which Buffett purchased when the stock was deeply undervalued in the 1960s after a scandal involving the company. Despite the negative press, Buffett saw significant long-term potential in American Express's brand, customer loyalty, and its dominant position in the financial services market. He believed that the company's intrinsic value far exceeded its temporary dip in stock price. His decision to invest in American Express, even when others were skeptical, highlights the principle of buying undervalued companies that have strong growth prospects in the long run. In recent years, many of Buffett's investments in undervalued companies have continued to shine. To identify value opportunities, Buffett stresses the importance of patience. He famously said, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." This mindset requires investors to adopt a long-term approach and avoid the temptation of quick gains. Rather than focusing on short-term market fluctuations or trends, value investors seek companies with strong fundamentals that are undervalued by the market for reasons that will eventually correct themselves. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, numerous stocks in industries such as travel, hospitality, and entertainment saw massive declines. While many investors panicked and sold off their stocks, value investors like Buffett saw an opportunity to buy these companies at discounted prices. Companies like Delta Airlines, which faced huge challenges due to travel restrictions, were temporarily undervalued but had strong underlying businesses that would recover as the economy reopened.
Yeah, I don't go into change management. If you go in business with somebody who causes your stomach to churn, I say that's a lot like marrying for money, that it's probably not a very good idea under any circumstances, but it's absolutely crazy if you're already rich, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to do it. I mean, if I can add 1% or 5% to my net worth by being around people who make me want to throw up, I'm not interested. I allocate capital, and I keep a bunch of very talented people who don't have to work excited about working if I can. I mean, my job is to take these outstanding managers that usually come with the businesses we buy, where they get all kinds of money from me, and keep them as excited about working subsequently as they were before they sold.
Warren Buffett has always placed immense value on investing in companies led by ethical and capable management teams. While many investors may focus on numbers, trends, or financials, Buffett's approach focuses squarely on one crucial principle. The leadership behind a company plays a pivotal role in its long-term success. It is the management team that ensures the company remains ethical, focused on its long-term goals, and capable of adapting to changes. These qualities are essential for creating lasting value for shareholders. For instance, Buffett's investment in BNSF Railway, one of the largest freight rail networks in North America, highlights his focus on strong, ethical management. When Berkshire Hathaway acquired BNSF in 2010, Buffett made it clear that part of the appeal was the exceptional leadership at the company. BNSF's management was known for being efficient, ethical, and forward-thinking, managing to expand and grow despite fluctuating economic conditions. Under their stewardship, BNSF continued to grow its operations and maintain profitability. Similarly, Costco stands out as an example of a company with strong, ethical leadership. The company has always been run by management that values long-term customer loyalty over quick profits. Costco's management has been consistent in making decisions that benefit its employees and customers, even at the cost of higher short-term expenses. Their ethical approach to business, such as offering competitive wages and treating employees well, has helped build a loyal workforce and customer base. Investors can evaluate management by looking for certain indicators. One of the most important factors is transparency. A management team that communicates clearly and openly about the company's financials, strategies, and challenges is likely to have the best interests of investors and stakeholders in mind. Furthermore, companies with a history of wise decisions are generally managed well. These companies have consistently made decisions that prioritize sustainability and long-term success, whether that means reinvesting profits into innovation or focusing on customer satisfaction. Lastly, companies led by ethical management typically emphasize sustainable business practices, ensuring that their operations align with social and environmental standards. In today's world, the focus on environmental, social, and governance (ESG) factors is more important than ever, and companies with leadership that prioritizes these values are more likely to succeed in the long run. Recent leadership changes in major companies have shown the impact of strong ethical management. One of the major examples is Tesla's leadership under Elon Musk remains a key factor in the company's success. Want to know about the most secretive investor of our time who has even outperformed Warren Buffett? Click the video on the screen to find out.